BYD executives just admitted something shocking. In their own words, the company is bursting at the seams trying to service the cars it sells, and this is not some minor growing pain. Across the world right now, BYD owners are discovering their Atto 3, their Seal, their Dolphin can sit in a repair shop for weeks or even months, with no one available or even allowed to fix it. This is happening today, not someday in the future, and mechanics and insurers have just exposed what is really going on behind the scenes. If you own a BYD, or you are thinking about buying one, you need to hear this before it costs you serious time and money. Let's start with what is actually happening because it sounds exaggerated until you hear the real stories. BYD is growing faster than any car company in modern history. It dethroned Tesla as the world's biggest electric vehicle maker. In the UK alone, it went from around 2% market share to nearly 4% in a single year, with over 35,000 owners and counting. In Australia, there are now 85,000 BYD vehicles on the road. That is a staggering number of cars sold in a very short time. But here is the part that should stop you. The cars sold fast. The service network did not grow with them. And now the bill for that gap is landing squarely on the owners. Picture this. You buy a brand new BYD for $40,000. Someone reverses into your rear bumper in a car park. No damage to the wheels, nothing structural, just a bumper. On a Toyota or a Honda, that is a 2-week job. You take your BYD to a body shop and they tell you the wait is 2 to 3 months, if they will touch it at all. Meanwhile, you are still making payments on a car you cannot drive, and your insurance loaner, if you even get one, runs out long before the part arrives. This is not a made-up example. This is a real owner in Sydney who bought a BYD in December, got rear-ended through no fault of their own, and was quoted a minimum of 2 to 3 months by every approved shop they tried. 3 separate body shops, same answer, because the part supply network simply is not there yet. Here is the mechanism behind the wait, and it is the same story in country after country. BYD grew so fast overseas that the parts warehouses, the logistics, and the local supply simply could not keep up. So when your car needs a component that is not sitting on a shelf nearby, that part has to come from China, and that is where weeks turn into months. One owner in the UK took their BYD in for a faulty heater. Days later, they got a voicemail. The repair had not worked, and the shop would have to wait until the next week just to get instructions from China on how to proceed. Not the part, the instructions. The people working on the car did not have the training or the technical information to fix a heater without phoning the factory on the other side of the world. That owner was told to expect to be without the car for at least 2 months, probably longer. Think about that for a second. In an age of self-diagnosing cars and over-the-air updates, the fix for a common fault was gated behind a phone call to another continent. That is not a maintenance problem. That is a support system that has not been built yet, and it is not one bad dealer. Owner forums in Australia, the UK, and beyond are full of the same story. Thousands of comments deep, months-long parts delays, unanswered emails, phone calls to customer support that go nowhere, a lack of service locations anywhere near where people actually live. The stories get worse the more you read. One owner had a BYD Atto 3 in a crash repair shop for 6 months, stuck in a backlog waiting on parts. Another owner described a friend whose BYD was eventually bought back by the company after they failed to repair it for around 12 months. 12 months. Imagine paying for a car for a full year while it sits in a shop that cannot get it fixed. These are not worst-case horror stories cherry-picked from the internet. They are common enough that they show up again and again across different models, different cities, different countries, all tracing back to the same root cause. The cars arrived long before the ability to support them. There is a simple reason parts lag so far behind sales. When a manufacturer has been in a market for decades, it has warehouses full of every panel, sensor, and module for cars going back years, positioned close to where owners actually live. BYD does not have that yet because it has not been here long enough to build it. A brand new brand starts with almost nothing on the shelf, and every part it stocks is a guess about what will break and how often. Guess wrong, or simply sell more cars than expected, and the shelf empties. When it empties, the only backup is the factory in China, and now you are waiting on international shipping, customs, and a queue of other owners who need the exact same part. That is why a bumper that takes 2 weeks on an established brand can take 2 or 3 months on a BYD. It is not that the part is exotic. It is that there are not enough of them close to you, and there is no deep local supply chain to fall back on when the shelf runs dry. Now here is what makes this different from internet complaining. BYD's own leadership has admitted all of it on the record. The chief operating officer of BYD in Australia said it in plain language. In his words, nobody expected the brand to grow as fast as it did, so the company is, quote, bursting at the seams, just running to catch up with the parts and service and training and all those things. He admitted BYD still has room for improvement in the back end, in service and parts, and called fixing it a massive priority. He went even further, and this is the line that matters most. He said that even in the early days there was not a lot of experience in the country for electric vehicle repairs, so even when they had the part, the question was whether the shop had the training and whether they had the right tools. The company itself is telling you that having the part is only half the battle. The other half is that there may be no one nearby who knows how to install it. He also admitted that part of the mess came from BYD changing how it runs its business overseas. In some markets, BYD switched from selling through a third-party distributor to running everything itself, factory-backed. That kind of handover sounds like progress, and long-term it probably is, but in the short term, it created gaps. The executive admitted there were parts issues and difficulty getting the different systems to even talk to each other during the transition. So on top of the growth problem, owners got caught in the middle of a corporate reshuffle they never agreed to be part of. When the executives running the company are the ones confirming the problem, you know it is not a few unlucky owners. It is structural. So why can't a normal experienced mechanic just fix it? This is the part most buyers never think about. A BYD is not a gas car, and it is not even like an older electric vehicle. Working on the high-voltage battery, the charging system, or the software requires specific training and specific tools that most independent garages simply do not have. In the UK, repair specialists say technicians have very limited hands-on experience with BYD-specific systems and that complex faults regularly require waiting for technical guidance from China, which they rightly call fundamentally incompatible with a car you need to drive every day. The scale of the gap is enormous. The Institute of the Motor Industry estimates the UK alone needs around 100,000 additional electric vehicle qualified technicians by 2030 just to service the cars already on the road. Most mechanics today were trained on gas engines, then adapted to Tesla and a few mainstream electric vehicles. Very few have been trained on a BYD specifically. The battery diagnostics need specialist software that a standard plug-in code reader cannot even access. High-voltage work legally requires certified technicians. The pool of people who can actually touch your car is tiny, and it is not growing anywhere near as fast as BYD is selling cars. So even if the part is in the country, you are now competing for one of a very small number of qualified hands to install it. That is the second bottleneck stacked on top of the first. Before we go further, here is the context that makes this bigger than one brand. BYD is the most visible example because it is the biggest and it is selling the most cars. But this is a wave. Chinese brands like NIO, XPeng, Chery, and others are all pushing into Western markets at the same time, at the same breakneck speed, with the same thin service networks behind them. Repair specialists and industry bodies are openly calling the skills gap a genuine consumer protection issue because millions of these cars are landing in driveways faster than any country can train the people to fix them. And the math on that gap is not closing quickly. It takes years to train a technician to work safely on high-voltage systems, get them certified, and give them real hands-on experience on a specific brand's vehicles. You cannot conjure that overnight, no matter how many cars you sell this quarter. So even as BYD builds warehouses and opens service centers, the single hardest thing to scale, trained human beings who can actually touch the car, remains the bottleneck. Some of that training now happens by flying overseas mechanics to China for a week of hands-on instruction because the expertise still largely lives at the source. Here is why that matters for you specifically. When a brand is new to your market, every problem is a first-time problem. The shop has never seen that exact fault. The part has never been ordered before. The software procedure is unfamiliar. A repair that would be routine and boring on a 20-year-old model line becomes an expedition, and you, the owner, are the one sitting at home without a car while that expedition plays out. The very newness that makes these cars exciting is the same newness that leaves you stranded when something breaks. Here is where it gets worse, and this is the detail that truly earns the word unfixable. In Australia, it was reported that BYD, along with another Chinese brand, failed to share diagnostic software and repair information with independent shops the way local law requires. There is a system designed specifically so that any qualified mechanic can access the data they need to fix your car. When a manufacturer does not fully share that information, independent repairers are locked out. They physically cannot complete the repair because the car will not let them. The reported penalty for this can run up to 10 million Australian dollars. This is the same pattern electric vehicle owners describe again and again. The car is so tightly integrated, so locked down with sensors and controllers all talking to the central system that a third party cannot just fix one piece. In many cases, the official answer is not to repair a component at all, but to replace the entire assembly, because that is the only path the software allows. On something like a scuffed battery pack, technicians describe it bluntly. Either the damage is minor enough to ignore, or the entire pack gets replaced. There is very little in between. So when people say your BYD is unfixable, they do not always mean it literally cannot be repaired. They mean the shop near you is locked out of the data. The part is on a boat from China, and the only sanctioned fix is to swap a whole expensive assembly that nobody has in stock. All of this feeds directly into something that can cost you the entire car: insurance. Because these cars are slow and expensive to repair, insurers have started treating them as a serious risk. A UK risk intelligence firm that the whole insurance industry relies on has flatly said that some Chinese cars are almost uninsurable. When one publication went looking for cover on a BYD Seal, they got just 3 quotes back, all of them high compared to the dozens of competitive quotes a mainstream rival would get. And here is the killer detail. The head of a national body repair association said that repairers have written BYDs off, declared them a total loss for damage that would, in his words, fly through a body shop if it were a Ford or a Vauxhall. Damage minor enough that a normal car would be fixed and back on the road in days is enough to write off a BYD entirely, simply because the parts and the repair support are not there. Your $40,000 car can be totaled by a knock that would cost a few $100s to fix on anything else, and the numbers behind this are brutal. Studies of new electric vehicles have found that even a minor scratch or dent can cost several times more to repair than the same damage on a gas car, because so much of an electric vehicle is integrated, sensor-laden, and built to be replaced rather than fixed. In a serious collision, the repair bill on one of these cars can actually exceed what the car is worth, at which point the insurer does the cold math and simply scraps it. So the same feature that makes the car cheap to buy, its tightly integrated all-in-one design, is exactly what makes it ruinously expensive to repair. And when insurers see cars that are slow to fix, expensive to fix, and prone to being written off, they respond the only way they can. They raise your premium, or they refuse to cover the car at all. And it is worth being clear about what the insurance industry is actually saying, because it is not that the cars are bad. The very same experts who flagged these cars as hard to insure went out of their way to say the products themselves are good, that BYD is a serious, capable manufacturer. The problem, in their words, is that these companies do not yet fully understand how the Western repair and insurance market works, and have not always supplied the correct parts and repair information that would let a shop fix a car quickly and cheaply after a crash. In other words, the risk insurers are pricing in is not a bad car, it is a support gap. But from where you sit, writing the check every month, the reason does not matter. A high premium is a high premium, and a car nobody will insure is a car you cannot legally drive. Now stack that on top of everything else. A car that can sit for months waiting on a part. A car a local shop is not trained or allowed to fix. A car that can be written off over minor damage. And now, on top of all of that, a car that costs a fortune to insure if you can insure it at all. Each of these problems is bad on its own. Together, they are the whole reason the word unfixable is not an exaggeration. Now let's talk about how they get you in the door, because the low price is the whole strategy. BYD's entire appeal is value. You get a lot of car, a lot of technology, and a lot of range for far less than a Tesla or a European rival. That is genuinely real, and it is why they are selling millions. But the sticker price is only half the story of what a car actually costs you. The other half is what happens when something goes wrong. And on a BYD right now, what happens when something goes wrong can be months without your car, thousands out of pocket, or a total write-off over minor damage. There is also a hidden cost most buyers never see coming: depreciation. When a car is known to be slow and difficult to repair, and when it can be written off over small damage, the used market prices that risk in, owners are already noticing their BYDs losing value faster than they expected. One frustrated owner put it perfectly, saying their 20-year-old Hyundai held its value better than their brand new BYD. The cheap price that got you in the door quietly comes back out of your pocket the day you try to sell. And think about how these cars are financed. Buyers stretch the payments out over long loans to make that low price feel even lower, sometimes 5, 6, 7 years. That is years of payments on a car that at some point in that window may be sitting in a shop for months waiting on a part, or worse, may already have been written off in an accident and replaced while you keep paying. The monthly payment is real, and it never pauses. The car's ability to be on the road right now is the thing that is not guaranteed. That is the trap, a payment you can count on, attached to a car you cannot. To be fair, and because this channel deals in facts, BYD is not ignoring this. The company knows it has a problem and says it is spending heavily to fix it. In Australia, BYD is expanding its dealer network from around 100 locations to 150 by the middle of 2026, with many of the new ones in regional areas and all of them meant to handle full parts and service. The company says it now hits a 95% parts fill rate from its local warehouses. In the UK, BYD has grown to 132 retail sites and is targeting 150. It runs regional parts warehouses across Europe and offers training programs for service partners. The executives are saying all the right things, that the back end is critical, that it is a massive priority, that they are determined to get it right. But notice what that admission actually is. It is a company telling you the support system is still being built. Getting it right, in their own words, is described as ambitious. So the real question for you is simple. Do you want to be the owner who buys the car now, while the network is still catching up, or the one who waits until it actually exists? So here is where it lands for you. If you own a BYD today, or you are about to buy one, understand exactly what you are signing up for. The car itself is often genuinely good. Nobody serious is arguing the cars are badly built. The problem is everything that happens after the sale. If your car needs a complex repair, or you have a parking lot accident that is not even your fault, you could be waiting weeks or months. Not because the damage is severe, but because the part is overseas, the local shop is not trained or not allowed to fix it, and there are not enough qualified technicians to go around. While it sits, your monthly payment does not stop. Your insurance may be sky high or nearly impossible to get, and if the damage is just bad enough, the car might be written off entirely over something trivial. None of this means BYD is a scam, and none of it means the cars are junk. It means you are buying into a company that grew faster than its own ability to support the cars it sold. You are an early adopter, whether you signed up to be one or not, and early adopters carry the cost of a system that has not finished being built. So before you put your money down, do not just look at the price and the range and the screen. Ask the questions that actually decide whether you will regret it. Where is the nearest BYD service center really? How long are parts taking in your country right now? Can you even get insurance on it, and for how much? Because a cheap car you cannot fix, cannot insure, and cannot sell is not a cheap car at all. Now I want to hear from you. If you own a BYD, drop your experience in the comments. How long did a repair take? Could you find a shop that would touch it? What did insurance cost you? And if you work in the trade and you have tried to repair one of these, tell us what you ran into. If this was useful, hit that like button and subscribe for more of the stuff the sales brochures leave out.